because I'm fascinated by the desert, and I'm fascinated by Phoenix and by the variety, but the fact that it is so huge and it doesn't seem to have a center or a soul to it. It's just a lot of different things that,
a lot of that I
sort
think,
of fit together.
Yeah, it is. A lot of that. I remember when I was on the Arizona Opera Board 15 years ago, one of the problems that we kept talking about was how hard it was for the arts here to get funding, because people retired here from elsewhere, and their money went like to the Chicago Symphony or,
Yeah.
you know, the Modern in New York or whatever. And that people didn't really feel, you know, like they lived in Phoenix. It was more of a retirement resort kind of community. And that's really changed a lot. When I opened the Poison Pen in 1989, I thought I'd close in the summer. Well, I tried closing on Mondays in 1990, you know, and that was a disaster. So, you know, who knew? People now live here year-round.
Yeah.
And I think separate parts of Phoenix are developing more personality. Tempe is developing a different personality than Scottsdale. Glendale is, you know, whatever. And so the actual Phoenix itself, downtown Phoenix, is kind of a work in progress. And I think if ASU, if the bond issue passes, as you know, we put a second bookstore down there in an area that really resembles Soho. I've had a number of New York writers come in and go, oh, look, you know, it's Soho. It's beginning to feel that way.
I'm really excited about what is happening downtown.
Me too. That's why
I love downtown areas, and when I first came, it was a blasted no man's land.
Absolutely.
And you know, not only are we getting that revitalization of downtown with the art walks and everything else that's going on, we're getting a lot of art galleries. We're getting a lot of just really nice creative people moving in because the possibilities there. I've played a couple times at galleries for the art walk thing, and we will be doing it again.
Yeah, I think David is going to be in touch with you about playing at the store down
and, you
there.
know, that not only attracts people, that holds people, and
You
that
bet.
you know, one of the other things that the arts can do is really create that sense of community, and I see that happening, and I hope that I'll be part of it as a musician and as a writer. But I think you're right. There are going to still be the sequestered communities, and you know, Tempe should be different. And something can be set in Tempe that needs to be set in Tempe, and something can be set in downtown Phoenix that needs to be set in downtown
Absolutely.
Phoenix.
I mean, Tempe's also a university town. You know,
I
always loved
great
the
place to hang
idea.
out.
You know, back to the territory. When I always loved the way it got divided up. That Prescott got the original capital, and Florence got the prison because that was the big money maker, and Tempe got the teachers' college. And you know, it's all kind of changed. But I think as a writer, that it may be easier to grasp in maybe the disparate communities. Now, John Talton lives in the Willow District, the old historic district, and that's really the kind of center of his books, is that, you know, historical, so to speak, Phoenix, which isn't historical as New Orleans, but still has some roots. And it's a work in progress. I think Phoenix is a work in progress.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea of Arizona Noir, and I'm so pleased that we did this together. Akashic Books, you know, is doing that series where they've done New York Noir, DC Noir, Los Angeles Noir, San Francisco Noir, and my goal somewhere, you know, when they get to the very end, maybe they're doing Paris Noir for all I know, would be, you know, Arizona Noir, which I think would be just so cool. So, I mean, I feel like we've pioneered a lot of stuff here together.
Well, let's hope.
Yeah, I do. I have not mentioned, although we have peripherally, all your short stories, which have been, and the fact that there's science fiction, I mean, you don't just write crime by any means. You've written, actually, it's almost impossible to think of something you haven't written in some form.
Well, if we do, I'll get right on it.
Maybe romance is the one thing, you know.
That's true.
There certainly are relationships driving your stories. And one of the other things I think we didn't mention, but which I've always really enjoyed about your work, is that you have this very fluid sense of time.
Yeah.
And in the Lou Griffins, no one's ever quite sure.
Or no sense of time, depending
well, there's
on how
that.
you
I
look
like
at
fluid,
it.
but you know, I mean, I think one of the charms of the Lou Griffins, but one reason they're challenging for readers is you're never entirely sure where you are at any given moment. Drive was, in fact, for you, a pretty linear book.
I suppose it was.
More so. I mean, you did move around, but it was the definitions.
You
I
always
thought.
knew where you were.
Exactly, and even in the new series for Walker with Turner, Cypress Grove and Cripple Creek, I think that the time is is more specific than it was in the Lou Griffin.
Yeah, I think so, because of the structures of the books. With Lou Griffin, the whole idea was sort of, observing history sweeping under the feet of the long-legged fly. And I feel that we actually live in the future and in the past as much as we do in the present, and I wanted to reflect that in the structure of the books. It was, it wasn't just fast footwork to dazzle. It actually came out of the whole idea of the book, and the first one gave the arc of a man's life, the others went back in. So I felt that the structure of each individual book needed to be fluid in that
Sure.
same way, moving
Well, it's
about
that whole
in time.
past as prologue idea. And finally, I think I could say that I think one reason that Drive has been such an enormous success, and you and I have talked about it, is the fact that it is so short.
It's very
really
short.
a novella, but it qualifies technically as a book in terms of various award categories and all. But I think in an era of really bloated books, of giant thrillers and, writers on computers not being edited and all the rest of it, every single review has mentioned how brief it is and what a great read, what an experience that is. Agatha Christie wrote books the size of yours. And I think it's wonderful. So I think you may have started a movement back towards short, which was not, because you wanted to do that, but nevertheless, I think...
That would be nice. I would
Yeah.
like to think that even if we don't create the subgenre of Arizona Noir, at least we have shown that a short book can work. And the wisdom of most publishers would be that it can't. Nobody really wants to read this. Well, I think we put the lie to that pretty effectively.
We turn out actually to be a very good team, author and publisher, don't we? Thank you for coming today.
Thank you very much.
It's really been a
Barbara.
pleasure, and I certainly thank all of you for joining us on this episode of the Criminal Calendar.